Story: The Shoelace Under the Boardwalk. I don't live a particularly exciting life. But whenever someone asks me for a scary story, this is the one I tell. I was 15 at the time, about to start my sophomore year of high school. I grew up in a typical beach town, packed with tourists in the summer. But a ghost town as soon as the season ended. The bars and restaurants would shut down. And it'd be just the locals, the sky, and the ocean. If you've never been down the shore during the off-season, I'd recommend it. It's one of the strangest, yet most calming feelings you'll ever experience. As cliché as it sounds, our house was on a street called Surf Avenue, only a block from the beach. Funny enough, I actually knew how to surf. It would have been pretty pathetic to live on Surf Avenue and not know how. I'd lived there my whole childhood. So the boardwalk and sand were part of my daily life, damn near part of my personality. I don't live in that house anymore. But it's still in the family, so it feels like a piece of me. At the time, I was on my high school varsity cross-country team. And I was obsessive about staying in shape, even during the off-season. Summers down the shore get insanely hot. So I usually ran early in the morning or late at night, when I wouldn't melt or have to dodge tourists. That night, I went for a late run. I'd stayed up late with friends the night before and slept in. So I didn't have much of a choice. I never brought my phone with me, it was annoying not having music. But even a little extra weight would throw me off. I had this rinky-dink Garmin watch to track my distance and pace. And besides that, I only carried my house keys. My parents were super uptight about locking the house. So no matter what, I had to stuff those keys in my shorts pocket every time I left. Even if they were home. It was non-negotiable. I decided to stick to the boardwalk that night. It's easy on the legs and not as brutal as running on sand. I wasn't in the mood for a challenge, I just wanted a smooth, easy run. After a few miles, I completely zoned out. I hit that euphoric runner's high, where you forget you're even running. I was in rhythm, listening to the slap of my shoes on the wood. And the distant sounds of the ocean. And then I heard it, a faint clink. I stopped and checked my pocket. Empty. My stomach dropped. My keys were gone. I crouched down and peered through the gaps in the boardwalk. But it was useless. It was pitch black under there. I couldn't even see the ground, let alone my keys. Frustrated, I cursed, yelling out loud like a lunatic. The adrenaline was still pumping. And I was pissed that my run had been ruined. I knew my parents would kill me if I came back without those keys. So, without really thinking, I jumped off the side and walked down to the sand. Honestly, it was also a matter of pride. I wasn't just going to walk away from something that belonged to me. The smell under the boardwalk hit me instantly, like rotten seaweed mixed with stale beer. That's the best way I can describe it. Imagine filling a bathtub with both and then letting it sit for a week. Every step I took kicked up sand and trash. It was disgusting. I didn't have my phone, so the backlight on my watch was my only source of light. And it wasn't doing much. I crouched to the spot where I thought the keys had fallen. Nothing, just more sand and garbage. I shifted the sand around, thinking maybe they'd sunk below the surface. But still nothing. Frustration turned to confusion. Had I misjudged the spot that badly? I climbed back onto the boardwalk. Stood where I'd stopped running. And tried to estimate where the keys would have landed. Then, I had an idea, kind of a genius one, honestly. I knelt down, untied one of my shoelaces. And dropped it through the crack in the planks. That way, I could crawl underneath and spot the marker from below. But as I stood back up, something pulled the lace. It instantly disappeared into the crack. Not the wind. Not me moving weirdly. Something, or someone, pulled it from below. I froze. I stared at the spot where the lace had been. Someone was under the boardwalk. And if they had my shoelace, they probably had my keys too. My first instinct was to run home and figure it out later. But my blood started boiling. My house address was etched onto those keys. I couldn't just leave them behind. I took a deep breath, jumped back into the sand, and crawled under again. This time felt different. The air was heavier. And I was bracing for a fight. At one point, I heard a faint shuffle ahead of me. My chest tightened. I swung the watch light toward the sound, nothing. Just more beams and sand. Then I heard another shuffle. From a different direction. That's when I realized, it wasn't just one person. There were multiple people under there. That was enough. Common sense finally smacked me across the face. What was I thinking? Was I going to fight some stranger living under the boardwalk? That was suicide. I turned to get out. But before I could make it, something cold latched onto my ankle. A hand. I screamed as fingernails dug into my skin. I didn't think, I just kicked as hard as I could. My foot connected with something, and the grip released. I scrambled away, scraping my arms and legs against the wood and sand, until I was finally out in the open air. I didn't stop to think. I sprinted straight home. When I reached the front door, I pounded on it until my dad opened up. Saying he was pissed would be an understatement. But before he could flip out, I told him everything. The keys, the shoelace, the people under the boardwalk. The commotion woke my mom up. She was furious at first. But when she saw the marks on my ankle, her face shifted, from anger to fear. My dad called the police. The next morning, we had a locksmith change all the locks. For a few days, things felt normal. I figured it was over. Just a weird, messed up night. But then, a few mornings later, I woke up to loud knocking at the front door. It was early, way too early for visitors. I waited in bed, thinking my parents would get it. When they didn't, I got up, threw on a hoodie, and went downstairs. I looked through the peephole. No one. I opened the door slowly. The street was empty. But just as I was about to close the door, I saw something on the doormat. A shoelace. My shoelace. The same one from that night. I slammed the door shut without a second thought. We got a security system installed that same afternoon.